We were
Will you
strolling
marry
through
me?
Central Park in New York.
Yes. Oh,
The
yes.
fall leaves crunching under our feet.
It's beautiful.
I
and
love
the city buzzing around us.
To good
I
friends
had
and great
everything
times.
meticulously
Cheers to
planned.
that.
And
The
to
small
many
diamond
more.
ring, the secluded bench near the lake. Even her
This
favorite
timeline is far too
cappuccino waiting
optimistic.
for us at a
We're
nearby
accounting
cafe.
for potential delays.
When I got down
Show me
on
the
one knee
data.
and asked her to marry me,
I
she
love
said
you
yes
more
with
than
tears
words
in
can
her
say.
eyes. It was
I
perfect
you,
as
my
our
love
engagement
forever.
progressed. I was thrilled to start planning our future together. Emily had always been ambitious. She had dreams of running her own tech startup. I wanted to support her fully, so I quietly invested a substantial amount of my savings into her venture. It wasn't just money. I connected her with investors, offered guidance, and even helped her secure office space in Manhattan. I thought of it as part of building a life together. After all, a partnership meant supporting each other's dreams. Right then came the day we signed the prenup. Emily's mother, a stern woman, with a reputation for being fiercely protective of her daughter, insisted it was necessary. She claimed it was standard in the world of wealth and business. I hesitated at first, trying to negotiate some terms that would account for my contributions. But Emily, caught between loyalty to her mother and excitement for the wedding, brushed it off. "It's just paperwork. Trust me," she said. I signed it, the legalities barely sinking in. At the time, I trusted her. I loved her. The wedding itself was like a fairy tale. We exchanged vows in a sleek, rooftop venue overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Our closest friends and family in attendance. Emily was radiant, and I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride that she was now officially my wife. We danced, laughed, and celebrated, completely oblivious to the storm that was quietly brewing beneath the surface a few months into our marriage. Emily's startup began to gain traction. I was thrilled for her, truly, but one afternoon, I glanced at our financial statements and something didn't sit right. Despite my contributions, the prenup effectively cut me off from any claims, investments, or equity related to her company. I had funded the entire operation, from the initial incorporation fees to the first round of salaries, yet legally I was considered an outsider. It felt like a punch in the gut. How could the woman I married, the woman I trusted, let this happen? I didn't confront Emily immediately. Part of me wanted to believe it was an oversight, a misunderstanding, but deep down, a knot of suspicion started to form. The more I thought about it, the more I wondered, did Emily really know what she was signing? Or had her mother influenced her decision at the time? I had no idea how much this prenup would shape our marriage. What started as excitement over a shared future slowly became clouded by questions of loyalty, honesty, and trust. The very thing meant to protect us from financial disputes was now silently dividing us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest battle of my marriage hadn't even begun yet. It didn't take long for the cracks in our marriage to begin showing. I tried to keep my frustration hidden, but subtle hints of my disappointment crept into conversations. Emily noticed the change in me, and one evening over dinner in our downtown apartment, she finally asked, "Are you upset about something?" I hesitated, unsure how to start without sounding accusatory. "I'm just confused," I admitted cautiously. "You know how much I've supported your startup, right? All the investments, the connections, the initial funding. I did it because I believed in you, in us, but the prenup, it effectively makes me an outsider. Legally, none of that counts." Emily froze the fork midway to her mouth. Her eyes widened, and I could see the color drain from her face. I didn't realize," she stammered. I thought the prenup was just standard paperwork. I didn't know how it would affect your contributions." It was clear she had been unaware, and yet the damage was already done. I felt a mix of relief and frustration. Relief that she hadn't intentionally betrayed me. Frustration that something so critical had been overlooked. "Emily, I love you," I said, my voice softening. "I always will, but this could destroy what we've built together if we don't address it." Over the next few days, Emily became distant, retreating into the office she had set up for her startup. I watched her work tirelessly, often pulling all-nighters, speaking to investors, negotiating contracts. She was passionate, driven, and brilliant. But in that dedication, I realized how much she had taken for granted. She assumed I would support her unconditionally, not realizing the personal and financial risk I had taken. One evening, I found a stack of emails in her sent folder, messages to potential investors thanking them for funding her startup, each one carefully crafted to highlight her achievements. Not once did I see a note acknowledging my contributions, my efforts behind the scenes. I understood why she wasn't trying to erase me from the story. She simply didn't know how intertwined my support had been with her. Success finally, I decided we needed to confront the issue head on. "Emily," I said, taking her hand in the quiet of our living room, I want you to succeed, I always will, but I can't ignore how the prenup affects what I've given to your dream. We need to figure this out together." Her eyes welled with tears, and for the first time I saw the realization hit her like a wave. "Oh my God," she whispered, I had no idea. I mean, I knew you helped, but I didn't think. I didn't realize you'd done all of this on top of signing the prenup." That night we stayed awake talking, revisiting every step of our engagement and wedding process, every investment, every meeting I had arranged, every penny I had contributed. Suddenly the scope of my involvement became undeniable. Emily's guilt was palpable. She hadn't just ignored the prenup's impact. She hadn't fully understood how deeply it affected both her company and our marriage. It was a turning point for the first time. We were no longer hiding behind the facade of blissful ignorance. The tension was real, but so was the willingness to communicate. Yet beneath the apologies and reassurances, I knew that fixing this wasn't going to be simple. The prenup had legal teeth, and emotions were now entangled with finances. The questions lingered. Could love survive when the law ignored loyalty? Could a marriage survive when one partner felt unseen, unacknowledged, and legally powerless? That night, as Emily curled next to me, silent tears on her cheeks, I realized that the fight for our marriage had only just begun. After our long night of confessions and realizations, Emily and I agreed we needed to do something. But the prenup wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a legal fortress. Every clause had been drafted meticulously by her mother's lawyer, designed to protect her assets and limit any claim I could make. I had always known prenups could be tricky, but seeing it in black and white felt like a punch to the gut. Emily tried to reassure me. "We'll figure it out," she said, her voice trembling. "There has to be a way to make this right." I wanted to believe her, and part of me clung to that hope. But the reality was stark. I had funded her entire startup, poured my time, money, and energy into her dream, and legally it was like none of it had happened. We began exploring our options. I spoke to my own lawyer, someone I trusted completely, who explained that challenging a prenup was possible, but only under very specific circumstances, like proving coercion, misrepresentation, or unfairness at the time of signing. None of those conditions were easy to prove, especially since Emily had genuinely agreed to it, without any pressure from me. Meanwhile, Emily was visibly torn. She loved her company, but she couldn't ignore the moral and emotional debt she owed me. Nights became tense in our apartment. Arguments flared over the smallest things, her staying late at the office, my quiet frustration at being excluded from decisions. I had helped fund even casual conversations about finances. It wasn't just money anymore. It was pride, trust, and the invisible bond that had been strained. One evening, I walked into her home office to find her staring at her laptop. "Red-eyed and exhausted, I'm trying," she whispered. "I've been talking to investors trying to restructure equity, but the prenup makes it so complicated, and I hate that it's affecting us like this." I felt a surge of empathy, but also the weight of betrayal. Not intentional, perhaps, but real nonetheless. We started attending counseling sessions together, hoping a neutral mediator could help untangle the mess. Talking about our feelings, our expectations, and the hidden resentments we'd both been carrying proved more challenging than I anticipated. Emily confessed that her mother had suddenly influenced her during the prenup signing, framing it as a necessary precaution to protect her future happiness. She hadn't lied to me, but she hadn't fully understood the consequences of signing away. My contributions in parallel, I began documenting everything: emails, bank transfers, meetings, and contracts. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just needed clarity and security. The line between love and legality blurred. Each day felt like walking a tightrope between protecting my investment, salvaging our marriage, and supporting Emily's ambitions without overstepping. And yet, despite all the tension, there were moments of tenderness. Emily would pause her work to sit beside me, holding my hand, whispering apologies. "I never meant for it to be like this," she said, tears spilling over. Those moments reminded me why I had married her: the brilliance, the drive, the love, but love alone couldn't fix the prenup. By the time the first quarter of the year ended, it was clear that we were facing not just a financial battle, but a test of our marriage. Could we survive the legal entanglements without losing each other? Could Emily reconcile her ambitions with the mistakes of the past? And most importantly, could I forgive the unintended oversight that had left me feeling invisible in a life I had helped build? The months following the revelation felt like a whirlwind. Emily and I spent countless hours in meetings with lawyers, drafting amendments and negotiating with investors. Every discussion about the prenup reopened old wounds, yet we pushed forward, because neither of us wanted to lose what we had built together. And separately, Finally, we reached a breakthrough. Emily, with her legal team and my lawyer coordinating, proposed a new equity arrangement that recognized my contributions without nullifying her company's autonomy. It wasn't perfect, and it required careful restructuring of shares. But it was a start, a compromise that acknowledged both love and legality. For the first time in months, I felt hope. The process was grueling. There were nights when frustration boiled over, words exchanged in anger and tears shed over the injustice of it all. Yet amidst the tension, we found clarity. Emily admitted that she had been naive, relying on blind trust in her mother's advice, without fully considering the consequences.
I acknowledged that my silence,
though meant to protect her, had allowed a problem to fester. It was painful, but honesty became our lifeline. With the legal obstacles slowly dissolving, our emotional bond began to strengthen. Emily started openly appreciating the sacrifices I had made for her dream. She would pause during her busy work days to send me notes of gratitude or simply sit beside me and recount the ways I had supported her when no one else did. For the first time, I felt truly seen, not just as a spouse, but as a partner and equal contributor. We celebrated small victories along the way. The first round of restructuring finalized, the first investor fully recognizing my stake. The first night we laughed without tension. Slowly, the resentment and guilt that had weighed so heavily on us started to lift. We began talking again about the future, not just in terms of finances, but in shared dreams, vacations, and even family plans. The prenup, once a symbol of division, became a reminder of what we had overcome one evening. Standing on the balcony of our apartment overlooking the city skyline, Emily wrapped her arms around me. "I can't believe we made it through this," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. I was so focused on my dreams, I forgot to protect us. I held her tightly, feeling the years of tension, doubt, and unspoken grievances dissolve in the cool night air. "I know," I replied softly, "but we did protect us eventually, and we'll keep protecting us together." From that moment, we made a pact: transparency in finances, respect for each other's contributions, and open communication would be non-negotiables in our marriage. Emily continued to grow her startup, but now with me acknowledged as both a supporter and a partner. And I, in turn, continued to invest not just in her company, but in our relationship with renewed trust and understanding. The prenup hadn't been the end of us. It had been a challenge, a test of commitment, and a lesson in honesty. In the end, what could have torn us apart instead became the catalyst that strengthened our bond. We learned that love wasn't just about grand gestures or romantic evenings. It was about recognition, compromise, and the courage to fight for each other when it mattered most. As we watched the city lights flicker below, Emily smiled at me. "We've built something stronger than a business," she said. "We've built a marriage." And for the first time in months, I believed it completely. I still remember the day I proposed to Emily like it was yesterday.